From Studio 1A in Tampa, Florida, comes a talk show that really feels your pain and tells you like it is. We love America and all that freedom-loving Americans want to protect. Live from coast to coast and on your radio, it's For the People with Keith Allen.
We'll help you survive this thing called life. We're for the people. Whatever your source of stress or strife, for the people is there.
Well, hello, Mr. and Mrs. America. I am Keith Allen and proudly welcoming you to this Thursday's edition of For the People. It's May the 11th, 2017, and we have a great show lined up for you. One of our listeners emailed me and said, how is your granddaughter? See, I have a stepdaughter. She had a baby not too long ago, and she was born with a birth defect and something that affects her arm and her shoulder. She had to have surgery in Orlando, and she's doing just fine, actually. She's about 8 months now, and more movement in the arm, and we're very hopeful that with continued rehabilitation, she'll won't be 100%, but good 95%. From what we understand, she might not be able to put her arm fully back, fully extended, but enough to put a shirt on, which is great. But before the surgery, there was no movement at all. Erb's palsy is basically what it's called, and it's something that I never heard about. All my siblings were born with no defects, other than some of us are a little cracked upstairs. Just kidding. But birth defects happen. Just recently, the girl's cousin, oddly enough, just had a beautiful baby girl, and she was just born, about 3-4 days ago. And, they tell you to count all your children's fingers and toes. Well, this baby doesn't have all her fingers. I mentioned yesterday, sometimes we could have it a lot worse. And you could tell that the mother was concerned for the child, obviously, and saddened by it. But other than missing fingers, very healthy. Beautiful baby. But that's a tough one to swallow. We all want a perfect baby. And who's to say that baby isn't perfect without the fingers? Who's to say? It's amazing when you talk to some people, if you would have known, some people that are just, they don't err on the side of life necessarily every time. And it's kind of odd to have this conversation with folks, but let's have the conversation. Recently I spoke to this young lady and was talking about abortions, and she goes, well, if you knew that your daughter would come down with cerebral palsy, or knew that she was going to be mentally challenged or whatever it was, would you abort the baby? I mean, because I certainly would. And I said, I wouldn't. She said, why? Why would you bring a child into the world that had a defect like that? Well, it's God's child. It's not mine. I think he's the author of life, and who are we to draw that assumption that it's not perfect? Maybe it'll be more challenging for the parent, but how about for the child? But I'm not going to love the child any less. It's to be amazing how many people will make that decision, and maybe in the future make that decision on whether or not to keep it or not if it's not absolutely, in their book, what is deemed perfect. You say, well, you're judging. No, this is a belief. It's a personal belief. And when we're talking about perfection or imperfection, I speak to many people on a weekly basis for business and personal conversations. And I'm thinking to myself, how many mistakes have we made in our lives? We're certainly not perfect. So, with some fingers missing, what they can do these days, who knows, they can maybe create some new fingers for her or what have you. But she's definitely special. She's unique. And so I just wanted to kind of get that off my chest a little bit. When I first heard the news, I was saddened for the mother, one, and for the baby. I mean, you want your kids to have all their moving parts, especially their fingers and their toes, when they come into the world. It's not a bad thing to have, right? But I haven't seen her yet. My wife has. She's gone to the hospital and have visited and seen, and my daughter has seen her too. Again, it's my stepdaughter's cousin, and had a healthy baby girl, other than not having the fingers, if you're just joining us with this conversation. But if you would have known that your child may not have had all their toes and fingers, would you have aborted your child? Some people would. And some people would, without hesitation, would have the child and they would do the best by them and do what they can. Just because you don't have all your fingers and toes doesn't mean that there's something else wrong with you. Even though you may not have any physical defects, it's sometimes the lack of things that we don't do. And who's to say that child with cerebral palsy or with epilepsy, and the reason I say all this is, I have some experience in this, and that is my uncle was mentally retarded, as they used to call it, and then they started calling it challenged. My Uncle Richard was retarded, but he was also something else altogether from any of that and anything that the doctor said he was. He was my uncle. And he suffered from epilepsy, but he had the biggest heart in the world. Everybody loved Uncle Rich. Whenever he came around, everybody liked to be around him. He was gentle. He was kind. But he was different. But the difference that he made in people's lives and to our family's lives was enriched greatly. He taught us something. Let's not give up on those that might be different, might look different. Let's not be turned off by something that we see and judge and come to a conclusion. Let it teach you a lesson. To be maybe a little gentler, softer, kinder, more tolerant. That we live in a culture that is still seeking perfection. People are not happy with their face. They have to get surgeries done because they're afraid to get older and what they're going to look like. Afraid of this and afraid of that. I say, grow old naturally. It's okay. But take care of yourself as best you can while that process happens. Fighting the ravages of time. Later on in the broadcast, we're going to talk about a story that somebody is actually doing that, making great strides, and you'll totally appreciate that when we come to this portion of the broadcast. But Alicia seems to be doing just fine. She's kind of like a monkey. And, as a good grandpa, you like to talk about your kids. Well, here I am. I tell you, she could survive with her legs alone. She's just like to kick and she grab things with her feet and all that. But she can do all this stuff now with her hands, which is great. But I'm telling you, she's like a monkey. That's what I call her. She's my little monkey. She's gorgeous. She is. Remember the dad, the son, in the hospital with head injuries? We have some audio from him basically recalling what took place, the illegal immigrant that, just 15 times over the past year, over the past 15 years, deported, back and forth. And he's been arrested for DUI, but keep on coming back into the country. And something that he did say during the interview, and I need to say this because I know we have people from all different persuasions and all walks of life listen to the broadcast, and the premise is we are for the people. We're not anti-immigrant. What we are is we don't like illegals that do bad things. They need to be deported. the dad recalling this very frightful incident that took place.
We were coming home from a little trip to Anaheim after Lennox had been a really good boy. We had to drive up to the Central Coast for a doctor's visit for my wife. So we decided we'd stop at Anaheim and let him play for a little bit before we came home. On the way home, we stopped and grabbed some milkshakes, and we were about a couple blocks from our house. And it had been raining earlier, and we slowed down for the turn to head in towards our neighborhood area. And I remember hearing screeching of tires, and then we must have had impact because I was knocked out for a second. I came to, asked my wife if she was okay. She said yeah. Lennox was sitting directly behind me, so I asked her if he was okay. She said he wasn't. He didn't look like he was responding. She pulled him onto her lap and started to try to get him alert. I started calling 911, and I had a Good Samaritan stop that was coming over. I was pretty disoriented. He had me turn off the car, and then I crawled out my wife's side where the impact wasn't on, so I could get out because my door was not going to open. I got out of the car and I looked around and I was thinking I would see the other driver or the other vehicle, but there was nothing there. Immediately after that, I'm trying to help my wife render first aid to our son. She had got him breathing and crying. He had a pretty big gash on his forehead that was bleeding. His nose was bleeding. Both ears were bleeding as well. As we're providing the first aid, we had Border Patrol agents just come out of the bushes almost, it seemed like, on ATVs and in their SUV. They helped corral the traffic along with the Good Samaritans that were there, and then we waited for the EMT to arrive.
All right, the illegal immigrant, Castellano Bandra Acosta, was accused of slamming his pickup truck into the passenger's side of the Lakes family Honda Accord, and then he fled the scene. I mean, come on. Fled the scene. I mean, that's how heartless could you get? You already plowed into somebody, and then he did this, but deported 15 times. People wonder why we need to have this immigration thing shored up. And by the way, some new stats came in overnight, and it really measures up with the Border Patrol, the FBI, and they're saying right now, in fact, 80% of the illegals coming in, and they attribute some of this to the media propagating it, scaring people with ICE raids and things like that. And this is nothing new, really, when it comes to the great scheme of things, because Obama promised that there would be this stuff, too, during his administration, but it wasn't enforced, not to the capacity that it is now. But this is why, folks. If anybody asks why, it's because of reasons like this. It keeps happening, and as long as we have folks in our country that are protecting them, shielding them in so-called sanctuary cities, there's going to be more of this taking place, and it breaks my heart. His son, from what we understand, is going to make a full recovery, but authorities had said of the incident that he had grave injuries, which he did, and he had to go in for surgery, is basically head injuries. And then the other issue is money. Can't get any money out of illegal immigrants, so he's pretty much stuck with, I think he has some insurance, but it's not going to cover all of it. And that's the other thing. That's the other part of the interview that we're going to leave out, but it's there. It's found on Fox and Friends because Ainsley Earhart actually interviewed the dad this morning on Fox and Friends, so you can find it on their website if you'd like to watch the whole thing. But he was careful to say that he didn't blame all immigrants or even the illegal ones. He basically just said the ones that are bad, and that's the ones that Donald Trump is actually talking about. But, the concentration now is on other things now. That's got the left's interest right now. It's not about the Border Patrol. It's not about this particular story. That's not important. But the importance now is the Comey firing. That's the big talk in Washington right now. And why he fired him, what was the timing, and what was he covering up? Or for the investigation what the left is purporting, according to what, Booker? Yeah, from New Jersey, Cory Booker.